a video on making some jam, maybe, kind of. So I was out somewhere and I had some jam, and it was had whole strawberries in it, and it was really nice, and I kind of thought, oh, we could have a go at making that. So I was having to think about how I could make it, because normally when you cook the fruits, they want to break down. So I was kind of thinking, well, what we could do is we could make some jam and then kind of stir in some um, whole strawberries, and that might work. So kind of make the jam properly with some strawberries, and then stir in some other strawberries once the jam has kind of got to properly set. So I was on the market, and it was the end of the day, and they were selling off lots of things, which is always my favourite time of day. So I bought lots of cheap strawberries. So I thought we can kind of have a go. I just wanted to, because we're going to be adding the strawberries afterwards. It's not proper jam sugar either, so I don't know how successful this is going to be. But things always take us in different places and interesting places. But to just add the strawberries to the made jam, lots of liquid would come out of the strawberries, and therefore the jam wouldn't set as much. So what I kind of thought we'd do is I'd steep the strawberries that I'm going to add to the jam afterwards. We'll steep it in some sugar first, and then I'll draw some of the moisture out, hopefully, and then it won't be as wet. That's my thoughts anyway. But it's not proper sugar jam, so I don't know if it's going to set anyway. So I put in a kilo of it's normally a kilo of strawberries or a kilo of fruit to a kilo of sugar for jam, which I kind of think is probably a little bit too sweet for me. The only reason you add so much sugar is because you actually want it to preserve the fruit. You can put less sugar into things like jams. It won't last as long, but you'll get much more of a flavour of the fruit than just like a sugar kind of flavour. So a kilo will probably be about right, since we're going to be adding these strawberries to it. So as you can see, lots of juice has come out of these strawberries, and maybe this is a bit of a long way around around things. Maybe I should have done a little bit more research, but this is the sugar I'm going to use to, so a new liquid would kind of come out. So what I thought is we'll then use this sugar in here to actually make the jam with as well. So it'll have the juice in from the other strawberries, but hopefully it will evaporate off. So it's a bit of a faff, but most of the things that I do aren't a faff, and I probably go around the things in the wrong way anyway. But we'll see how we go. It might just work. I think that maybe my other thought was maybe the place where I'd had the jam might have just been more like they just stewed some strawberries down in a bit of sugar and some lemon, and just kind of made like a quick jam, maybe more like a compote, like a jam compote, rather than an actual jam. So maybe I should have done this beforehand, but I'm pretty good at waffling, so we can just do this at the same time. So you get the idea. Should I pause? I probably should pause until I've done all this, because that's the sugar that I want. Yeah, we'll pause for a bit. Lick my finger, and then pause, and I'll come back when I've got all the strawberries out of this sugar. That's done, and I've chucked a bit of lemon juice over the top of that, just to get rid of some of the sugar and collect underneath. So, right, so there's a kilo of strawberries there, there's a kilo of strawberries here, and then we need a kilo of sugar onto the strawberries that we're going to actually make into the jam. So it's just slightly off camera, but there is a weighing scale here, and we can see that sugar is going to be out from there. don't know how this is going to turn out, but I think we can use this. We can use it as an experiment to see if actually we can make a like a compote stroke quick jam type of thing. So most of that sugar's out there, and we've got 700. Where did I put the sugar? Out there, straight in front of me. 760 grams. So we need to take that up to a kilo. Which is a lot of sugar. That'll do. Right, so heat underneath, and then lemon juice from the that I just poured over there, and some of the juice out of there. So that's all fine. Come there. Just need that bit of sugar from there. No exact recipes. Just a bit of faffing about. So this needs to come up to the boil, and then we need to boil it for 5 minutes or so, something like that, and we'll see how it goes. See how it goes at that stage. So I'll bring it up to the boil slowly. We don't want to burn anything, and then we can see what it's like. I think that's it for the moment. Yeah. So slowly up to the boil. I think we don't want to burn anything. We don't want to caramelise sugar. We don't want to burn the fruit. I'll just kind of see how it goes. But you can see that more liquid is wanting to come out of those strawberries, which is kind of what I wanted. And it's, yeah. So, we'll see how we go. Right, quick update. I have tasted that sugar in there, and it was far too sweet. So I just kind of thought what we'll do is I'll just add another lemon, because it's double the amount of strawberries. So, I'll put another lemon juice in, and I just poured the lemon juice over the strawberries, and then just to kind of wash some of that sugar off them, and then poured that into there. I mean, we're going to be boiling up the strawberries. Part of the jam setting is the pectin, but it's also the evaporating off of excess liquid as well. That's another thing that helps the jam to set. Because essentially you're making a sugar syrup type of thing. If you imagine when sugar is it's solid in a granulated form, but when you add water, it becomes a liquid. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I lost my train of thought. But anyway, that's what I did. So we just added a bit more liquid to it. So the boiling will evaporate off some of that excess liquid. So hopefully this will work. But the strawberries are already kind of losing a bit of their colour. Oh, we've got a bit of a stalk in there. Losing a bit of the colour, which is not kind of what I wanted. But hopefully this will work the way I want it to work. Coming up to the boil, and slightly concerned that it'll boil over if we've got it on a really hard boil. So we'll just keep it on a rolling kind of boil, so not kind of like full on, because I don't want it to boil over, but more of a, see, it's already starting to come up the side of the pan, which is not what I want. So it's just a case of giving it as much heat as I can without it boiling over, and then we'll turn it for 5 minutes. I think it's probably going to need more than about 5 minutes. The soft fruit, they're already starting to break down. But most things are going to break down when you cook them in that kind of amount of sugar. That's seems like a lot of liquid for a little amount of strawberries. I'm not sure. I believe that recipe that I looked at probably need a lot more strawberries, but we can always remelt it and always have another go. One of those things, as long as you bring something back up to a temperature, and then give it another. Give it a good boil. That will kill any kind of bacteria that's in there. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that's about right. We'll leave that for 5 minutes. See how it turns out. There are temperatures you kind of have to get sugar to turn it into jam, but I don't know what they are. Should have researched it, but none of a science experiment more than anything else. Let's see what happens when we do this. So turn that down slightly. It's starting to smell like jam. I suspect we need to boil off a lot of that liquid. And it'll be more like a jam. It's going to boil up any more than that. No, I think it'll be about it. Spoon it out. See how that goes. Give it 5 minutes, see how it goes. So, 5 minutes is up. I don't think that's anywhere near ready. I think that needs a lot longer. It's smelling really nice, but it certainly needs more of a boil, as you can see. So the strawberries are falling to bits. So we'll keep it keep it boiling, and then we'll kind of see how it goes. Give it another 5 minutes. I seem to remember something about the size of the bubbles is a good way of telling the temperature of the sugar. So I think, is it smaller bubbles or bigger bubbles? I'll remember when I see them, but they're looking like it's almost kind of quite thin at the moment. So I don't think that's at the right stage. There's like this when you faffing around with sugar and sugar work in kitchens, there's what's called a soft crack and a hard crack. So like a hard crack would be a hard sweet like candy type of thing, and then a soft crack would be a softer version of that, more like a chewy kind of version. But I can't remember it all. It's a long time since I did any sugar work. Not that was any good at it anyway. So we'll give it another boil for another 5 minutes, and we'll see how it turns out. But lots of steam's coming off it, so we are kind of getting evaporation. I'm trying not to move it too much because I don't want to break up the fruit too much. It might be a bit cloudy as well because we're boiling everything back into itself. But we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. You never know. This is another 5 minutes. So, and I still don't think it's ready. So we'll give it another 5 minutes. It certainly tastes like jam. It certainly tastes like jam. It could probably do with another lemon in as well. It's a little bit too sweet for me anyway, but it's still kind of quite liquid like that. It's nice and shiny. You know, you can see through it. It's nice and shiny. Fruit's breaking down too much. You know, that's not what I wanted. So it's a good job I didn't put more fruit in than that fruit in there at the same time, type of thing. It certainly tastes like jam. And I have washed some jars, and they're in the oven sterilising. So nice clean glass jars. Wash them out, and then 100 degrees in the oven for half an hour or so, something like that, just to kill off any bacteria or any kind of yeast that's in the jars it's collected over time. But that's it. So we'll give that another 5 minutes, and we'll see how we go. This always kind of happens when I'm faffing with jam. What was it? Yeah, I tried to make some grape jelly, and I was forever faffing with it, and it never really set how I wanted. And you've got to reduce it down, and reduce it down, and reduce it down. So in the end, it became more like a flavoured sugar syrup that was a little bit jammy. It was nice, but not kind of what I wanted. So, and I did use proper jamming sugar that time. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Another 5 minutes. It's had a whole load more of 5 minutes, maybe another 10 minutes, and it's still nowhere at setting. So I put it on a cold plate. So that's kind of consistency it is when it's cold. So that's nowhere going to be near ready at the moment. So we need to carry on boiling it to evaporate off a lot of that liquid. Probably should have bought some jam sugar, but I had other sugar in the house that's been there for a while, so I want to use that up. And it's an experiment. Everything's just a bit of fun, isn't it? So we'll let that carry on bubbling away, and I'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see how long it takes. It's getting there. I think the rule is when the bubbles start getting smaller, and that's when we've got it starts becoming more like jam. But I want it to be kind of quite set because we're going to end up putting those strawberries in. So all that liquid will want to come out of those strawberries as well, so it needs to be kind of quite set. But anyway, just judge that. That's about right. And we'll leave it, and we'll keep leaving it until I'm a little bit more confident about it. The fruit has almost wanted to start sticking to the bottom of the pan, so I'm concerned about reducing it any more. But I think we're kind of there. It's going lovely and dark. It's all as rich colour as that. So cold plate, bit of the syrup jam on it, and it's kind of gone sticky-ish, not like a set jam, more like a bit of a jelly, but it might just work. It might just work. So I think there's too much liquid there for that amount of strawberries that I've got there. So what we'll do, the sugar's going to be really hot, so we'll drain off some of the liquid using a metal sieve, and then we'll keep the it's stuck to the bottom of that pan. It's alright. What's really done is just caramelise a little bit. So I just want to get rid of some of that liquid. Probably would be best if I clean the pan as well. Yeah, we'll give the pan a clean. Drain off some of that liquid, and then we'll cook the. Yeah, it's going to be alright, jam. That's sticking to the sides of that already. So that's going to be fine. So I'll give this a clean. As you can see, look, it's just starting to stick there. So we need to get rid of that. We'll see how this goes. I'm faffing, as always, but I'm not doing anything else today. I'm going swimming actually, and then I'm going to see my mum. But anyway, I'll give this a wash, and then we'll faff some more. Right, so we drained off most of the liquid, and we'll put the pulp back in there and some of the liquid back in there. So that out of the way. We'll see what happens with that. We'll pour that into a jar anyway and see if it sets up. And then these strawberries in here like this. We're not going to pour that juice in. And then we'll give it some heat. Cook these strawberries. So hopefully they'll stay relatively whole. And then we'll see how we go. So we'll see what happens. See what happens. It might just be a case of we need to put in more fresh strawberries into the kilo worth of strawberry and sugar jam, which is fine. We can just adjust the recipe accordingly. So what's that? If we look at that, probably needed 2 kilos of fresh strawberries to put into it. That probably would have been the right kind of volume for it. But we'll see how we go. See how we go. We've got to start somewhere with an experiment. You see that? That jam's a lot better now. It's set up a lot more. That's certainly something that you put on your toast is that. So we'll just cook these strawberries for 5 minutes. Don't really want to agitate and boil them too much. But we want it to kind of go a little bit cooked but stay as whole as possible. So just turn the temperature down, and look, we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Like that. But pause for a minute, and then we'll be back when these are cooked. My feeling is that I don't want to cook them any more than I have done. If I cook them any more, they're going to start to fall to bits. They've already just started to fall to bits as it is. So heat off, and then the jars are nice and sterile. And then gently. Maybe we're supposed to leave that. I think we're supposed to leave that for a while. So no, it'll be fine. I'm going to take an executive decision, and then pour into jars. Yeah, they've already started to slightly break down. Don't know what it's going to turn out like, but I've already had a thought about something else. So, and that's what I like to do. I like to faff around in the kitchen and see where things go. Sometimes they go in interesting directions. Sometimes we don't get things right, but other times things go in interesting directions. So, more fruit in this next one. It's not going to make a lot of jam. It's a lot of strawberries, but it was only. Oh, how much did I spend on the strawberries? It were so it was 8 punnets for £2, which is for nothing really. So, for £2 and pounds worth of sugar, so for £3 and a bit of electricity, we've had a faff around and done something a little bit fun. So even more fruit in there, I think. And the last bits of fruit in there. And top up with juice. It's going to be a really set jam as this. I'll have to see how it turns out. A bit more juice in there. I think it'll probably draw some of the liquid out of the jam. Big spoon. I need that one. Just out of there and in there. Like that. So, that there, that out of the way. That there. So there's a bit more juice in that one. That'll do, and we'll get the rest of the juice into that pot. We'll just see how that sets up. There's not the jar's way too big for that, but we'll just see how it sets up. I think it'll set really well with that. I think it'll really set really solid. And what we might do tomorrow, when these have all properly set, we might take the juice, this juice from this one, that one, and the juice from that, which was the what strained out of it. We might just take those two, and I've got some strawberries left, so we might just see if we can remelt that and put those strawberries in, and what happens if we don't steep them in sugar to get rid of some of that liquid beforehand. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Right, so stir our lids on and we'll let those cool down and see how we go. I'm not going to do any washing up. I'm fed up. I'm going out. But that's it until tomorrow, until everything's cool, and then we'll kind of see how things have set up. Maybe I probably should do the washing up before I go out, but everything's going to need a soak anyway, so hold on that one as well, and we'll see how things go. Let's have a look at the jam. It's set up overnight. So this is the one that was just the juice that was strained off. As you can see, it's quite liquid, is that. And this was the pulp that was strained out, and it's still kind of quite liquid. However, if that's how liquid that is, then the ones that we add the strawberries to should be kind of a little bit looser than that, but still have the whole kind of strawberries. Have I got a knife as well? Oh, do you know? Yes, this knife will do. So we'll open the tin that we put the strawberries in. I don't think it's not gonna last long term as this. So, but a nice kind of pop to it. So it's not going to last long term. It's not going to keep. You're going to have to kind of keep it in the fridge, if anything, and it might keep for a couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to last anything longer than that. So there's no. You couldn't put it in the back of the fridge, in the back of the cupboard, and kind of use it a year later. I don't think it can work like that. But we'll kind of quite see. So it's more like a compote. So the strawberries have stayed relatively whole, and then, but they've come floating to the top of the jar. So it's more like a compote more than anything. So I don't actually think you need to put it in the jar, but that's all right. Is that? That's kind of what I was aiming at, and it's made me think about this. and made me kind of think about potentially what I could do. Right, so let's have a taste. A bit more of that juice. So we'll see how we go. That's really nice, is that? That's really nice. So by less sugar, more fruit, we've kept the flavour of the strawberries rather than it kind of being lost in the flavour of just being too sweet. Like, so you buy some jams and they're just, more than anything, they're just kind of like sweet, red, solid material, you know, and there's no real kind of flavour of the fruit in there. But by adding double the amount of fruit to sugar, we've kept a lot more of flavour, so it's not going to last as long. But that kind of gets us where I want it to be. I think if I'd used proper jam sugar, like with added pectin, it probably would have set up a little bit firmer. I'll have to do it again with some proper jam sugar, but it was just, as always, everything's just a little bit of a bit of a thought in my head, and just can we have a go at that? Let's have a faff around. So that's kind of quite interesting. That's kind of quite interesting. So yeah, try another taste because it was delicious. That's really nice, and it is what I wanted, and it was very similar to what I kind of tasted when I was out and had breakfast. Oh, and it was sourdough, and there was really nice butter and this compote jam. Yes, so that's kind of a success. Always a little bit of room for improvement with everything. So let's have a taste of this. Let's have a taste of that different stuff. Yeah, nice, but just not as fruity as that. And I always kind of think the big chunks of strawberry are good. Just kind of more interesting. A different thing entirely to jam. So I'm going to say it's more of a strawberry compote. Yeah, I've still got some strawberries left. I'm already thinking how we'll have a think. While I'm swimming, obviously, I'll have a think about how I'm going to do with the strawberries. But I think it'll be the next part of this video. I won't make another video. I'd end up making too many videos. So yes, this is. I'll have another go at some point in the future when the strawberries are cheap and I've got some jam sugar. We'll have another go at making some jam, and then putting bigger strawberries into it afterwards, and kind of doing the same type of thing, and see if it sets up better. Although I'm tempted to kind of think no, but I still want to have a go at it. But there we go. So we're all right. There is going to be a bit after this, so this isn't the end. But at the stage we're at now, I think that's a success. Out of curiosity, I'm going to take all the fresh strawberries that I've got left. I haven't saturated them in the sugar this time. I'm just going to put them into the pre-made jam. You can see there's other jam at the back. That's from the jars that I've opened. I'm not going to use the jam for a little while, so I don't think it will preserve particularly well. So what I've done is I have emptied the open jars that I opened, obviously, into the pan. I'm going to heat that up, and then I'm going to put that in sterilised jars, so hopefully it'll last a little bit longer. So let's pretend that these we're at the process where these were the saturated in sugar strawberries, and this is the jam that I made, and we're at that kind of process. But I haven't saturated those in sugar, so this is an experiment to see if we actually need to saturate them in the sugar beforehand. So there's just short of a kilo, and then there's half of that jam, the extra jam that I strained out of it. So we're going to see how it works. What's going to happen, for definite, is there's going to be liquid that comes out of the strawberries. So it's going to, sorry, I'm just washing up at the same time, because there's always washing up to do. So there's going to be liquid that comes out of them, which is going to let that jam down. So it's not going to, it's going to be even less set than it was before. But I'm just kind of curious if we could have got away with not doing the saturation process. So we'll kind of see. This might have worked, well, I'll just have to kind of see. Maybe it would have worked better if I'd have used some proper jam sugar, then it would have been a thicker jam. But as I've got the strawberries, and we've got the jam, and we've got the time, and we've got the thoughts and the inkling, we might as well have a go. So, those are my thoughts. And I've got some jars sterilising in the oven. So it'll just be a case of, I wanted to heat up the jam first, and then put the strawberries in, rather than put the jam in, and then put the strawberries in, and then heat it all together. It just means the strawberries aren't in as long, and they won't break down as much. They'll probably break down more than what we did with the bit at the back, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I was pleased with the result, but there's always different ways of doing things. There's potentially easier ways of doing things as well, so we might as well have a play around and see. In my opinion, I'm sure there'll be enough jam in there. I don't think there needs to be any more. So we'll just turn that temperature up a little bit. And I think the jam at the back's fine, so that can come off. If it looks like the jam in here is a little bit too thin, what we can do is we can strain the fruit out of it, put the fruit into jars, and then reduce that down. I don't want to necessarily have to do that today, because it's getting a bit late. I've done enough today. I've done enough faffing around, and I've made enough washing up, and I've thought enough, and I've been swimming, and it's getting a bit late. And it's Sunday night. Not that time really seems to match at the moment. The world's still a crazy place. So, I tend to go about things the long way sometimes, and I think if we can just find a easier way of doing something, it's just worth having a go. Just worth having a go. But the recipe that I did at the first part of the video works. So, kilo of sugar, kilo of strawberries, turn that into jam, and then put 3 kilos of fresh strawberries, what's macerated strawberries, into that. Macerated meaning that they've been they have been covered in sugar, and so some of the liquid that come out of them. 3 kilos of macerated strawberries into then that jam, heat up, stir around, cook a little, into jam jars, produced a really nice strawberry compote, which would, I mean, compote's almost a jam, but it doesn't last quite as long. Probably want some lemon in there as well, but it doesn't matter. It's just a bit of a faffing around. So we're just going to cook it long enough so that the fruit starts to drop, which won't take long. We'll pause. I'll pause, and then we'll come back when everything's a little bit more heated up. You don't need to see all this, do you? Now. Right, they look just about as cooked as I want them to be. So I've turned off the heat. We've got some jars in the oven. I'm going to do some small jars and some big jars, and then I can open a smaller jar tomorrow, and then I can give it to my mum once I've opened it, because once I opened it, well, as I said, I'm worried about the how things are going to last. So, okay, I need that. I can just live on top there for a minute. So we'll see how we go. Quite a lot of liquids come out of the strawberries, and you're kind of supposed to let the jam sit for a little bit so the strawberries float down to the bottom, but we're not going to do that. I mean, we could reduce the liquid down, but I don't want to. Not tonight, anyway. Not tonight. If it's too, I'm going to have another go at this anyway. So if it's too thin, I know that I just simply need to make a thicker jam, or reduce the cooking liquid down, or the cooking jam down. We'll just see if it kind of works. There won't be as much sugar in this, so it might be, sweetness might be an issue as well. I don't know. Just want a couple more strawberries in that one, and then we just need to top up the juice. Strawberry. Not another strawberry. I'll get one in there. Be careful with jam, it's really hot. It always wants to burn you. Well, it doesn't want. Jam doesn't want anything, does it? It's not a, well, who knows? In the future we might find out that jam is living. That and there. Right, so that's fine. Kind of get the idea. Lids on those. We'll see what it's like tomorrow morning. Looks pretty, but we'll see what it's like tomorrow. Let's have a look. I've got the old one as well, so those out of the way. It's definitely going to be too thin, definitely. But I needed to know, so yeah. I mean, it cooks them. They're cooked. It's just the jam's just that little bit too thin. Certainly, if you look at what the other one was like, that was a lot thicker. So let's have a taste. It's really nice though. It's just the liquid part of it, the jammy bit, needs to be a bit thicker. But nice all the same. If you want to make a compote, that's certainly how you make a compote. But there we go. That works. There will be another video on me faffing around with this again. I kind of knew that it was going to be too thin, and I probably should have reduced the juice down, taken the strawberries out, and once they cooked, reduced the liquid down, and so it was thicker. But I certainly know, and that's I don't know. I know what I'm going to do next time. There will be another video of something very similar, but a better version. But the first version that I did, thoroughly acceptable, and I found a picture of the jam that I had on toast while I was out, and it was lovely. Not that dissimilar from that at all. But we'll have another go in the same way that we made the first batch, and we'll make it with jam sugar. And then I've just got something else I want to try as well. But there'll be another video.